South Africa has banned poultry imports from countries infected with the avian influenza virus. Kevin Lovell, Chief Executive of the South African Poultry Association, joins us from our Cape Town studios for more insight. Good to have you with us this afternoon, Kevin. The ban, how long has this been put in place for, and what has taken the delay in actually implementing it?
Well, it's actually put in place by the Department of Agriculture and Forestry and Fisheries, and there wasn't really a delay. There's an international club called the World Organization for Animal Health, and when another country notifies them that there's a disease, it then gets taken up by the department, and the department issues a ban. So there were no delays. In fact, they acted very quickly and acted quite responsibly. It's a particular kind of avian influenza, a subject that can be complicated. There are theoretically about 144 different types. Only 18 of those could possibly lead to a ban, and those 18 come in a severe form called high pathogenic, or a less severe form low pathogenic. It's only if it's high pathogenic. It just so happens that we've now got 3 countries in Europe with a high pathogenic form that comes from South Asia, South Korea to be specific, and we have another form in Canada, on the western side of Canada. I'm not quite sure where it comes from. Both these strains kill chickens and they can harm people. That's why we have to react in this way.
Well, South Africans and I'm sure the producers locally are very happy with the response that has been put in place. But you mentioned 3 countries in Europe. What does this mean for our trade relations with the Eurozone, which is one of our biggest partners here?
It's an understanding that this is an acceptable way of managing the volumes of, managing trade. It's a temporary measure. How temporary it is depends on how quickly those countries can resolve the disease outbreaks, and whether they can convince, firstly, the World Organization for Animal Health, and secondly, the South African Department, that they have managed the outbreaks properly and that the outbreaks are over. So there's a lot of administrative procedures that go along this, but it's not. It has to stand outside of any trade arrangements, because health comes first and trade second.
Does this have any spillover implications on other trade agreements? One thinks of AGOA with the US.
Well, AGOA is a kind of an interesting story, because it's a very good trade agreement for South Africa for 2 reasons. The one is that what we export is slightly more than what we import from the USA, and perhaps more importantly, what we export is mostly manufactured goods. So it's goods that often create there's higher skilled jobs that are created in this way. The Americans have said, the American poultry industry have been to their Congress and said, well, if the South Africans don't deal with their anti-dumping duties against South Africa, well, they won't allow AGOA to be renewed. So we are in discussions with our American colleagues, with the South African government, and we'll be having further discussions shortly to try and see if we can find a compromise. But I don't think that this can be seen to be linked to health in any way. The Americans themselves might also have avian influenza, and all the years that we've been involved in poultry, we've been lucky not to have avian influenza in chickens, although the ostrich industry has unfortunately had more than 1 outbreak. So you don't really wish misfortune on anyone, but if that misfortune was to happen, you've got to be quite quick and you've got to be quite strong.
What about the impact on our local producers here? Now that this ban has been put in place, surely it should boost our local poultry economy?
If it's a sustained ban, yes. The chicken that hopefully most of your viewers will be eating tonight, or perhaps even at lunch, was planned around about 22 months ago. So we can't suddenly sort of turn on the taps. You don't have a factory where you just suddenly buy more widgets and all of a sudden you produce more cars. It will have, if it has long-term effects, which simply on a collegial basis we would hope that the Europeans don't have, it would allow us the scope to increase our local production. There are 6 other European countries that may export to South Africa. We've already seen a shift in imports rather, from those countries, and that's primarily because the same 3 countries that have avian influenza just so happen to also be the ones against which we've had provisional anti-dumping measures. Perfect storm for those companies, but the importers were already working to get around that problem. Minor effects for both parties, local producers and importers. It doesn't resolve the trade issues we have, and those trade issues are really quite simple. We've got nothing against trade, but trade can only be free once it's fair. You can never call trade free if it's unfair, and that's what we have at the moment, is unfair trade.
Kevin, we don't want to cause any panic among consumers who might be watching the show today, but are there any reported cases of poultry imports which have been infected with avian influenza?
No reports so far. All the poultry that comes to South Africa from any source comes with veterinary certificates which certifies that it is free of a range of things, and avian influenza is one of them. So what's happened here is an accepted precautionary step was taken. Avian influenza, like many viruses, by the way, even if it was on poultry that you bought, which there's no evidence that it is, all you need to do is cook it properly, wash your hands, wash the cooking surfaces, and the risks to people are quite limited. The risks to poultry are definitely higher than the risks to people. I don't think viewers need to worry. For viewers elsewhere in Africa where there have been human cases, it's where there's been live poultry and where people have been in sustained and regular contact with live poultry. I don't think you need to have, no one needs to go off chicken today or tomorrow or for the next month. It's Christmas time as well.
Exactly. So in other words, continue eating your chicken. Kevin, thank you so much for your time today. That was Kevin Lovell. He's the Chief Executive of the South African Poultry Association.